Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the news briefing this Wednesday, October 22nd. Well, this week is Free Speech Week. It's one of our country's most fundamental constitutional rights, but it is facing some challenges. And the County of Monterey spent some time yesterday talking about that, issuing a special proclamation, and thanking press partners who serve the public. What is the state of free speech and the press? What are the challenges for people working in the field and for people who are training the next generation? That's what we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about today. We want to start by talking to people who are working in the field right now. And while they don't represent the entire press corps, we'd like to hear about what the challenges are that are facing our working media. We're very pleased to have Erik Cushman, who is the publisher of the Monterey County Weekly, and Sara Rubin, the editor of the Monterey County Weekly, to talk about those challenges. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting us.
Who would like to start? Because we'd sure like to hear what the challenges are that are facing our press today.
So if it's okay with Sara, I think I'll just jump in and kind of frame the conversation from my vantage point. I am publisher. I am not in charge of content. I am not in charge of reporters, but I am a fierce defender of the First Amendment, and that's the product in which I trade. So I don't have widgets. I don't have million-dollar homes. I don't have software technology. I have the First Amendment. That's basically what we go to our clients and pitch. I I kind of made the joke that I've been doing this for a while, and I've gotten a bunch of calls from county supervisors over the years, and mostly it's been like, "What the hell are you doing? How'd you screw this up?" This last week, it was the call to say, "Hey, we'd like to invite you to say a few words because we're honoring the working press and celebrating free speech with a proclamation." And it was just a delightful and really it was on so many levels. It was a great invitation to receive. So I was really happy to accept it and to spend a few minutes with the supervisors in the chambers yesterday. One of the reasons, so I think we're at a historic time. I don't presume I need to tell anybody who's working in media today that we're at a historic time, but I'm going to just frame it from my perch. And that is that, as we saw on Saturday with the thousands of local residents, of Monterey County residents rallying in the streets, uh, people take their right of free speech very seriously and very personally, and it was great to see. Um, and it's not unique to California, but I think it's especially prevalent in California that we're fortunate. And my view is that history is going to judge us very favorably. It's going to be kind to California because the state has both the financial wherewithal and the backbone to stand up to authoritarian overreach. And I don't think that that's the case everywhere else. Um, and I think history, my kids are going to owe me a debt because I think history is going to be likewise, um, like very thankful that there were journalists working and asking difficult questions and not rolling over and not just, kind of being stenographers to the government's line. Um, the other reason that it's historic is that the the need or the desire for really for good, reliable, trustworthy, professionally vetted, edited information, stuff that we call news, um, it's it may never have been greater. I mean, it's really the need in the community is palpable. People want something that they feel like they can trust, and that's as a result of all the sources of disinformation that exist. And so at the same time that the need is great, the the economic underpinnings the of the enterprise of news gathering has never been more fragile. It's just KION didn't go away because they hate Salinas or hate Monterey County or hate doing news broadcasts. They closed up because they couldn't pencil it out. And I think that uh, we're very fortunate. We have a trusted brand. We have a well-earned, I would say, good reputation in the community for being hardworking, ethical journalists. We're going to meet those supervisors at the farmer's market or at the cocktail party or at the church gathering or something like that. If we screw it up, we're going to hear about it, like I said. So in addition, we operate under, a professional code of conduct. But Monterey County Weekly is ambitious. I think we're not cavalier, but we're ambitious, and we want to flex, the muscle that the First Amendment gives us as members of the press. And I don't know why, but I feel like, one of the things that I like to remind people is that there were more books sold in 2024 than there had been, physical books, like on the bookshelf behind me, that kind of books, than there had been in the last 20 years. Remember when Barnes and Noble was in every mall in America and Borders Books was everywhere, and you couldn't, they're not there, but selling of books has made a nice rebound. Selling of vinyl records it's the same thing. In 2024, where more vinyl records were sold than in the last 25 years. So I think local journalism has a future. I don't think it's an abundant, lavish future. It's not William Randolph Hearst kind of future, but I don't think it's a dying industry. And I think the need for what we do is great. And I think if we deliver it with with integrity and intelligence, I think we'll have a market for our product. And happy to answer any questions that anybody else has. And I'm going to turn it over to Sara.
Thank you. And thank you, Maya and Nick, for inviting us. And as I said, it's a little bit unusual for me to participate in this because generally we as an editorial department, the newsroom here at the Monterey County Weekly and Monterey County Now are watching these briefings to hear from county officials that may be answering some of our questions, giving us story ideas, giving us important updates on things that we're looking for to cover. That said, I love any chance to talk about what we do and how we do it, and am delighted to be included in this and happy to answer questions. What I would say is that I think some of the framing of the topic of the challenges, I think we are all well aware of on a more global scale, the challenges facing the industry and trust in journalism in general. And Erik talked about some of those on the business side. But one of the things that I think sets local journalism apart is something also that Erik alluded to. Our team, we've got a team of 10 people in our newsroom. We all live in the community in which we work, and we are out and about every day, running into people. We have to earn and re-earn trust every single day. If we get something wrong, if we write something that somebody thinks is unfair and does not meet our standards, we have to be accountable to that. And we're constantly in dialogue doing that. And also the good side of that, I mean, I think all of it is good, but is that we are focusing on issues that I think in a lot of ways rise above some of the deeply politicized trust and mistrust that you see happening at a national scale right now. It may not matter whether you think it is named the Department of War or the Department of Defense. If you have an approach to, say, reducing the city of Monterey's budget deficit, it may not matter what your view is on abortion access when we're talking about what you think the right strategy is to improve Highway 101 safety and how to pay for that. So a lot of the things that really are so divisive right now don't apply at a local level. There are different divisions, certainly, but they're much more about the issues and the people working to solve them. And they're, from what I see, very sincere efforts to try and put forth the best solutions to problems so we can really get into those issues and less just fall into this political divide. So that's, I think, what I'd offer just as brief remarks about how the local press fits in against this landscape where trust is really a big problem. The way we do it is we do good work that we think is, deserving of your trust in us. And if you think we blew it, I invite you to call me, write me a letter, tell me what we got wrong. And if we did in fact get something wrong, I'm committed to running a correction. And if it's just a matter of disagreeing whether our characterization was accurate and maybe there's multiple ways to look at the issue, maybe we talk it through and maybe you write a letter to the editor putting forth your different view and we can all move on from there. So that's a little bit about how we do all of that. Very happy to answer questions and could get into a lot more detail about how we operate if anybody would like to know. Thanks.
Thank you. And there is a lot there. And I was going to hold questions until after everyone has spoken, because I want to now turn to Estella Porras. She's a professor of Department of Humanities at Cal State Monterey Bay. She's teaching. She's one of the people who are teaching the next generation of journalists. And I want to hear from her about, what students are asking about and how are they going to navigate the landscape that it looks one way now, but who knows what it's going to be tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the County of Monterey to taking the initiative for this event. And I think this is really necessary and urgent. And also I want to say hello to all people in the panel. I know my students are going to be watching the recording, so they have extra credit for watching and commenting and engaging. That's part of the point. So yeah, so we're in this moment of thinking about all these complicated problems. So I just 2 days ago I just came from Colombia. I was traveling and kind of having all these kind of Latin American stories as well. So kind of I just want to mention that how the kind of the history of intimidation of the press and press freedom is large, no, and we have a long experience with that, and how for so many years in Latin America we were looking at United States at this kind of model of freedom of speech and democracy, and it's so sad to see how during the last government with this administration we witnessed these attempts to subordinate the press and to replace independent journalism with propaganda in some cases. So I think all of that we try to discuss with the students in the class and try to look at what's kind of the large picture. So I want to mention a couple of things that I think that important. I kind of reiterate what Sara and Erik had mentioned. The value, the importance of something precious. I want to say some precious thing, like in the Lord of the Ring, that precious, precious thing that we want to get is, I think, and I keep telling the students, is original reporting, like journalism on the ground, what you guys are doing, because the students are exposed to a lot of information. They're consuming media on their phones, but they're not exposed to enough good quality original reporting on the ground, local journalism of people that actually go and ask questions and go to the council and go to the communities and go to the neighborhoods and ask questions and care for what is happening there. And that is so unique and so precious because people could be consuming media by consuming commentary and opinions and reactions of other commentaries and more. And there is a lot of information that is in this ecosystem of media that is not necessarily nutritious or helpful to see what is happening. So in my classes and here at CSUMB, we're trying to incentivize students to pay attention to what is original reporting, what is fact-checked, what is information that had the quality that really help us to understand, to give us elements to have better analysis of our communities. So even here in the our university, we have this small local newspaper. It's called the Lutrine, and the students are practicing with support of Dave Kellogg, that is also a reporter. Students are getting exposed to go and interview and go to the town halls and ask different faculty, students, go to the community. So all of this is a practice that is enriching for them and hopefully for us. So I think that the other part I wanna mention is that kind of what we're discussing with my students is finding ways to engage with media and to become better readers. So we do some little thing like kind of the wait, don't tell me, like similar to the NPR kind of news quiz, for the students to at least notice what is going on and also what media they're consuming and who's behind the news, how the news are produced. So all of that help them to have better a better understanding of what are the sources. No, it's not like I'm seeing this on TikTok and that's it, and I'm scrolling down and I get reaction for this, but also they need to kind of identify where is this coming from and what is supposed to be my reaction. So there is a lot of conversation with the students with that. I think that also we have to figure out how to connect with young generation of readers and news consumers in ways that they feel that is the information they're getting is relevant and it speaks to them. And I think there is a lot of exploration there. Also, I think that is super important in this moment of this other element, in this moment of even kind of like this difficult moment in which is speaking Spanish is becoming something kind of suspicious. It's important to remember that people in the community, Latino community in the United States, have rights, and even if they don't have papers. And I think this is essential for journalists and for the press to inform about how to protect them, and that no form of discrimination is acceptable. And have these conversations in the media and have this news and really kind of serving to this community, I think is important. How to reach out to people that need the information that is crucial, and how to have perhaps more diverse newsrooms with bilingual reporters is important. So I will try to do some experiments with the student here with Spanish news, kind of in Spanish language. All of this is part of the initiative to think of how to reconnect the good quality practice of reporting for training the students, but also for consuming news that connects to them and their life and their interest. But so this is what I have so far, some points, but I will be happy to engage in conversation and questions with you guys.
Thank you. And I want to go to Susan Meister before we open for questions. She is the founder of the Monterey County Media Literacy Coalition, and they're having a special event this Friday called Miss Info Day. And it's not a beauty pageant, but it's a great informational event. Hi, Susan. Thanks for being here. And you're on mute.
Unmuting. Am I okay now?
Yes, gotcha.
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, we are having our special event, Miss Info Day, in California. It's called Miss Info Day California because we're the only ones doing it in California. And it is an offshoot of a program that was devised by the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public, which is our academic partner at this point. And our view is that we are in an emergency. We have never been so inundated with disinformation, and a lot of that disinformation is being exposed to by university and young university and high school students who are going to vote, and they're the ones on whom we're depending to preserve our democracy. And so what we do in this program is we invite luminaries in the field of media literacy, and we invite them to give special presentations to this age group, 10th through 12th graders generally. Friday, we have 80 students coming from all over Monterey County. We have a special luminary speaker who is a huge voice in the field of media literacy. And then we have representatives too from the University of California, Santa Cruz coming. We believe that this generation is critical to us because they're the ones who are going to decide whether we have a democracy or not. They're the ones who will not only organize what their society looks like, but ours as well. And so we need to teach them the critical thinking skills that are required to be able to analyze information versus propaganda. And we know that about 85% of the age group between 18 and 24 gets their news from the internet. And we have a big problem in the internet, especially now with AI, where it's almost indistinguishable between real images and fake images. It makes the internet almost useless for the consumption of news. And we're really worried that this generation is going to be addicted to disinformation and not be able to detect it. I have to say that I think we've organized a distinguished coalition of journalists, library scientists, lawmakers, public service, and we're very honored to have the Weekly as our media representative on this coalition for all the reasons that Erik and Sara have enumerated. We are very lucky in this county to be able to have them as a source of information, which we know is fact-checked and reliable. And thus we chose them and they thank them for choosing us to be in this coalition. We do focus on older age groups as well. We've held a number of events in the county this year in which we've had very good attendance and very good questions. One of the best panels we had, Sara was involved in, it was a panel of news editors from print and television journalism, discussing how they produce content that is factual. And it was very, very well received. This coming year, we are planning a series for distinguished people in the field of disinformation. And we already have someone lined up from Stanford who is an amazing authority on this topic, to which we will invite a general audience, and we believe that we'll get a large number of people. So we're proud of the fact that we think we're making a difference here. We are very encouraged by what we have received in terms of plaudits from the press and our other constituents. And we intend to continue this work because, like you, we believe that in a moment of peril, we have to speak up and enlarge our platform. Any questions, please address them. I'd be delighted to. Thanks.
And thank you all. And I want to ask a question that's a little bit of Susan and a little bit of Estella, and I'm hoping you'll both chime in. Susan, you talked about creating critical thinking skills for these youth, and Estella, you talked about your students being news consumers. How are we going to teach people to be those good consumers, to know what is true, what is not true, what is factual, what is not factual, where to start?
Well,
and I'll let whichever one wants to start, take that one.
Well, Estella is a university leader, so she will be able to tell you how she does this. But there are very definite techniques for being able to teach people critical thinking, something called lateral reading, which means that you compare different sources of information to see that they are legitimate. The main thing is to have people simply stop and say, is that true? Can I trust this? And teach them how to find trusted sources of information. And if you do this early, and if you teach people in serial fashion, they do seem to respond to this. The idea is for them not to simply swallow whole what they're given in a headline, but first to question it and then not to pass it on until they're sure of its factual nature. And also there are a number of fact-checking organizations that are excellent and will send weekly fact checks to show exactly how they do it. And I'm sure Estella has some other secrets up her sleeve too.
Yes, well, some of these things that you mentioned, the lateral, finding of first triangulation sources and all of that, we do some of those exercises. I'm every semester, every year is sometimes getting a little more concerning to see that for some students, even the idea of news is kind of foreign, or a newspaper or a news media. Something like, yeah, okay, news, yeah, what I'm seeing on TikTok right? So it's like even the idea of news and opinion also. We have to start kind of with the basic, no? What's news, what is not, what's opinion, what is a source, what is a reliable source, how news are being made, no? If, what that means, so it's just kind of looking at the whole process and seeing the value of that and the difference. But yeah, I think that's interesting. I was talking to the students the other day. One student was telling me, she said, like, it's kind of hard for me to get into reading this newspaper because it's like getting into the movie when the movie already started. So I don't know exactly what's going on. So it's a little bit like foreign to me, and I'm not engaged. I prefer not. No? And I'm saying, well, we have to figure out ways. So there's some kind of explainers in reporting that give you kind of context so you can enter into the story, you know. So look for those. Let's look at some explainer. Let's look for some ways to enter into this movie. You don't get so much into the weeds and the language. It's too technical and people feel like, they don't want to. But but they need to be incentive for that. No? So I'm trying to incentivize students and have some activities and figure out ways to they get into those movies and they feel the connection with the reality. One student was telling me, I'm really interested in issues connected to women and women discrimination. I don't really care about the other things. So I said, well, there's so many things that are connected to that. So look at, education, policy, health, immigration, all of that. So many things are connected to your topic. So how to see the connections? So I think it's a challenge for educators, and I think even from K to 12, we have to think of ways in which students start getting into this routine and habit of knowing what is a newspaper, knowing what the movies are there, how to read it, how to understand it, how to connect with something that they care about. I only care about this, or I only care about sports. Only sports. Well, sport have to do also with other things. Let's figure out ways. So, well, I don't know if I'm giving any solution there, but I think it's a lot of creativity. I think coordination. I guess coordinating with the effort that you, Susan, is doing, and Sara and people in other places, reporters, trying to figure out ways to coordinate even with the K to 12 people as well, to figure out ways in which we can create incentives and routines and get the engagement with the students' interest.
I have one more comment on this. What makes this particularly difficult is the fact that many of the sources of the worst disinformation are our government. And when it comes from a source that is supposed to be that authoritative, it is a real issue to be able to sort out the facts. It's an unfortunate feature of our media landscape right now, and it's something that it's really have to contend with it.
And actually, that brings me to a question for Sara, because Sara, you talked about that a lot of the overarching issues that are dividing people are more national, and locally, there are things that we can all work together on. Do you find there's a trickle-down effect, though, in people's feelings that when they come to public comment, when they come forward to some of these issues, that they do bring, anger or what they see about the press, things changing in the press landscape, to the issues that are even local?
I would say absolutely. And I think for all of you who work in government, you probably see and hear that too. And I think you need look no further than our letters to the editor section to see some of that. And some of the tone and the talking points certainly have gone beyond, you'll see in tomorrow's paper, in the letters to the editor section, a lot of response to our coverage of the No Kings protests on Saturday. And that is perhaps a predictable place where you would see this very filtered pro or con, just extreme takes. So that is not filtering down necessarily to a local issue, but you will see some of that same kind of language repeated, I think, both in the discourse and in the comments that we get from our readers. That said, I think at the local level, there is still there are still rooms of people coming together to make policy, talk through problems, hear from the public, work on issues in front of them. So there is still an ability here, and I'm very grateful to live and work in this community for a long list of reasons, including the fact that I think even people who hold extremist views are not derailing the conversation and they are not monopolizing the conversation. So there's still an ability for people of different perspectives to be heard, and then for the people interested in serious solutions to move forward. And that's what we're interested in covering too. And Estella's point earlier was really interesting and disheartening to me to hear what at least one student says about finding newspapers inaccessible. But we're, I think, interested less in fringe cases. Then maybe there are some stories that we do that would be viewed as kind of fringe type examples of what's happening in society or views that people hold, but what they tell us about the whole. I think we're much more interested in giving people a newspaper that tells them about their community, how they can engage in their community. We do a lot of preview-oriented coverage about how you can show up to, whether it's provide public comment or just watch how the sausage is made when your decision makers make decisions that will affect your neighborhood, your water supply, your ability to find an affordable place to rent, your ability to go to college and stay in this community, all those kinds of things. We really want people to be part of that. And I think we are writing for an audience who wants to be part of that. We expect to a degree that people want to meet us where we're at, which is, we have a mission and we want to encourage conscious thinking and independent thinking and conscious action is our mission. And so people who may not be interested in those things, I'm not sure I can persuade them that they should. That's the mission of our newspaper. We hope that by reading it, maybe they will be moved to engage in conscious action and independent thinking. And if they're not, at some point, I'm not sure that we will be able to reach them if they don't want to kind of join in that venture with us, even if we disagree on the ways to actually get there. But I think it's often much more in the details where the disagreement actually is than it is in the big picture. So I'm not sure if that's an answer to your question, but that's what I'd offer.
It's an excellent answer and a great way to wrap up this segment. I really appreciate you all coming and talking about this. And again, to all of our media partners, The Weekly here and others, we really appreciate you being in our community. And thank you all for being here and talking about this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next topic. Now, we got a little mini preview of our winter storm season with an unexpected storm earlier this month that got our public works crews out early to make sure trouble spots were taken care of. But communication had already gone out to growers to be sure that they are following important guidelines for their winter storm preparedness. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're very pleased to have Juan Hidalgo. He's our agricultural commissioner, and Enrique Saavedra. He is our chief of public works. Juan, I'd like to start with you and talk about what communication has gone out to agriculture in advance to our winter storms, because it's not just residents who have to be prepared. Everybody lives here and everybody works here, and we all want to be prepared.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Maya. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I appreciate the opportunity for my office and our county in general to be able to talk about some of the actions that we're taking preemptively, just to, keep in mind that, we're entering that time of the year when rain can be expected. And I think, Maya, when it comes to our growers, agriculture is an important sector of our communities here, and we want to make sure that they know that there's agencies out there that can support what they do on the farms to prevent erosion and runoff when it comes from the rains. And I think, one of the key things that we do working with Public Works and working with the Resource Conservation District and the Natural Resource Conservation Service is that we all collaborate to make sure that There's information that goes out to our growers about what they can do to help prepare to minimize any runoff on the farms, which is something that has been a problem in different parts of our county over the years. And so we generally send out a letter, usually in late summer, just so that they can begin to think about, what are some of those things that I need to keep in mind as I get ready to plant for next year, or as I get ready to follow my field for a few months before I can come back to it in the spring. And certainly there's a lot of resources, but there's a few basic things that our growers are really aware of. And, we just want to continue to remind them of that. And that has to do with just basic practices on the farm. Cover cropping is the main one. A lot of our growers use cover crops to help reduce runoff and erosion from their farms. And the problem with runoff and erosion is, of course, if you're on hilly ground or maybe other parts of the county that may have issues with water retention, is that it can get onto the roadways and it can have an impact on communities. If you have a bunch of mud going onto a road, that's extremely dangerous to our communities. And for anybody that's going to be utilizing those roads. So we want to remind them of, what happens if certain actions are not taken on the farm. So a lot of our growers are very conscious of this action. So cover cropping is one of the things I had mentioned. I think for our strawberry growers in particular, I think they have to be extremely mindful of when they plant their fields, the layout of the beds to reduce any runoff, especially if you're growing on hilly ground, because some of because of the plastic tarp that's used on the strawberry beds, that really reduces the amount of infiltration from the rains, and basically can really turn into more runoff than you would normally have. So a lot of our growers are extremely conscious about that. So they take actions to make sure that the beds are set up on hilly slopes in a way that water runoff and erosion is reduced. In those really hilly areas, growers really have to think about creating a retention pond, which helps to capture water at the low end of the farm, and also to capture any erosion from the soil from the farms. But some of that requires permits on behalf of our county. So one of the things that we have really focused on the last couple of years is having some really good interactions between our growers and the county agencies that can help to provide those services. So the Resource Conservation District is one of those agencies, as I mentioned earlier, and just creating those relationships between the grower and those agencies to know that there's somebody out there that can help to provide services that are free of charge. They can make some recommendations, they can make plans. And a lot of times, there's free grant money that growers can take advantage of. As you can imagine, if you're a grower and you want to create a retention pond on your farm, not only do you have to go through that permitting process through our county, but there's a cost associated with that. And so for them to know that, there might be some money available that you can apply for to be able to work on those projects. So a lot of the work that we have done in conjunction with other county agencies is continue to create the awareness, making sure that we have the information for our growers about what resources are available, especially the resources that are free. I think a lot of interest happens with the free resources for sure. So that has been one of our main areas, to initially reach out to our growers, work with them. And I'm glad to see that some of the word on the work that we're doing gets out to our communities as well. I think, again, I think highlighting the fact that not only does it help the grower and their farm, but it also supports our communities, I think is a great talking point, and something that we want to definitely bring to the awareness of our growers.
Thank you so much, Juan. And then Enrique, I'm hoping you'll talk a little bit about what Public Works does every year to prepare the county for winter storms. It's on your calendar every year. You're always having your crews out there getting ready to make sure that when the storm hits, the areas that are impacted can manage the rain and debris.
Yes, good afternoon, May and everybody else on the call here. And before I get started, I just want to maybe say a thank you to Juan and his office for all the help they've done over the past years with the outreach to the ag community in terms of minimizing or eliminating erosion as much as possible. Because our infrastructure, our roadway infrastructure, our culverts, our bridges, our ditches or swales, they're designed and it can accommodate most of the water runoff. The issue arises when there's sediment or erosion or debris in them, and that's when we have the issues in our roadways where things get plugged, the drains get plugged, the culverts get plugged, and that's where the water overtops the roadways. So again, thank you, Juan, and your office for all the outreach. It's a very valuable piece of the preparedness that the county here takes every year. As part of the effort to prepare, we also preemptively in the fall time, about this time of year, we go and clean our ditches, our areas that we're prone to have issues in the past, and clean them out, flush the culverts, and try to be proactive as much as we can. There's quite a bit of sediment that comes throughout the year that impedes the flow of water, and that's the issue is when water gets impacted by debris and not able to flow. So again, every year we do this. And just highlight one area in particular that maybe in the media recently was the area in Bolsa Knolls. It's an area that every year we put close attention to it because there's a lot of really sensitive. It's a sensitive area because a lot of homes that are adjacent to a Saavedra Creek or Little Bear Creek, and there's quite a bit of ag upstream of this community, and this historically they had of sedimentation issues or problems. So that's one area that just before the storm we had last weekend, we had to go out there, and we worked Saturday and Sunday. Our crews were out there trying to clear out these areas. And luckily, this past storm we had, we didn't hear of any issues. And we hope to continue not hearing issues in this community. But that's an example of one where we have to be very proactive in making sure our culverts are cleared and our roadway infrastructure is able to accommodate the winter flows. The other piece I just want to maybe highlight for the community here is that we in Public Works, our mission is to make sure our roadways are clear. But however, these creeks, these channels go beyond the roadway. They go on private property as well. So we also want to encourage private property owners to have a creek through their property to make sure that they also do their due diligence to make sure it's cleared and it allows for water to flow appropriately through their property. Because a lot of times flooding can initiate on private property and extends to the roadways. So again, it's encourage community to be proactive when it comes to winter preparedness. And lastly, I want to also maybe highlight for the community the website that the Department of Emergency Management provides, and it's a lot of information that's provided there, and one piece of information that's kind of key that we do for the community is providing the sand stockpiles. On the website, there's a location of sand stockpile. So if any time in the future, a community needs to make sandbags for whatever reason to protect their home or garage or barns, whatever, there is sand available for the community use to make sandbags. And again, it's posted on the website for the Department of Emergency Management. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions or any feedback from the community.
And I think that website is readymontereycounty.org that has that. You did mention a little bit about Bolsa Knolls, but I wanted you to talk just a little bit more about it because it's an example of what you're saying, where these creeks can meander through private property as well as public property. And in the case of Little Bear Creek, it's 12 miles long, and only a small percentage of it is maybe wandering through a piece of county property. It wanders through a lot of hands, as it were.
Yeah. In fact, I have a map here. I'm more happy to share if I'll share it here on the screen. I'll bring it up here. Hopefully everybody can see my screen here. So just for information or situate yourself here on the map, this is Bolsono's area. This is the north end of Salinas. Uh, what you see here on the black lines, those are the parcels of the different properties. As you can see, there is quite a number of homes and streets here as you get close to the city of Salinas, just on the edge. You can also see the different the middle school and the elementary school nearby. But what this map depicts too is what you see, these red and blue lines. The red is what they call the floodway, or where the area where the water flows almost on a yearly basis. And you can see how the water starts out in the in the area where there's the strawberry fields, where there's this more intense ag, and then the water comes downstream into a community. And this is where we have these issues. We have this sort of ag urban interface, where there's sedimentation, and the water needs to get through it to a little community. And so you can see here the water needs to go between properties, behind people's backyards, through people's properties, as it goes through the town into the bigger channel downstream into the city of Salinas. So, and the other thing I want to point out too is the blue here is the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain. So this is the areas that are expected to flood within a 100-year time frame. This is the 100-year floodplain determined by FEMA. And so these are the areas, again, that have these particular issues with flooding on almost on a yearly basis, because we have this tight, windy creek through people's properties, and these are creeks that have water carrying in from miles upstream. They originate in the ag areas. So with that, I'll stop.
Yeah, and I just also wanted you to mention that while it's not complete, there is a drainage study happening about this very issue. And just to let people know that the county is taking a look at this big picture.
Yes, and very good. Thank you for that, Mia. So we are, part of our efforts here, it's also to be kind of look at the long view of things and trying to see how can we improve things over the long term. And one of the things we're doing right now is undertaking a drainage study of this area, this creek in particular, to see how we can mitigate, or how we can reduce the flooding over time. And we're looking at everything, not just in the community, but in the wider watershed. And because Juan mentioned earlier, it's important what the neighbors to the north in the ag properties do, because they control how much sediment or erosion happens in their fields. And that's what, again, what causes these issues downstream is all the sedimentation. So by looking at doing this water study, we're looking at the watershed study. We're looking at the whole area and looking for solutions that extend into the whole watershed. And we're looking at possibly maybe detention basins is the answer. Sedimentation basins are maybe the answer. And these are things that wouldn't be situated within the community, but more in the ag area where, again, the sediment and erosion happens.
And Enrique, your crews are out, for instance, in Bolsono's frequently. You have connections there in the community. You've talked to people. What are you recommending that they do? The drainage study is still a ways away, but for this coming season, what are your recommendations to residents?
Two things. I mean, if you have a part of this creek or this channel through your property, be aware, what it looks like. If it needs to be cleared, if there's debris in there, clear it out so the water can flow and not flood your property more than it already is. And also, if you don't have this, but you happen to be affected by it, be aware where the sand stockpiles are. Know where you can get sandbags. So if you need to rush out there and get some sandbags, you're able to do that. In this community in Bolsono's, we have a sand stockpile area right there off Cornwall at the Farashi Park, so folks can go out there and get their sand there. We also have one off Russell Road, so we kind of put these sand stockpiles in the areas where people may want them or need them. So make use of it. We monitor those stockpiles, so if they're running low, we call it for new sand to be brought in and refreshing the pile. So do two things like this: be aware of the weather. Use sandbags if you need them, and then just clear out your storm drain lines into your property.
Well, we know those residents are, because I think that sand pile ran out after our preview. So we can assure people that those sand piles will be restocked for their needs.
Correct.
Juan and Enrique, thank you so much for talking about this topic. And just a reminder, we all need to be prepared for winter storms, no matter where we are. And thank you for joining us on the news briefing this week. Our next briefing is next week. We'll see you then.